Hey folks, Sean Malin of CineMalin Film Commentary and Criticism here. Also, We Just Got Better. Don't forget to follow us at cmfilmcommentary.com. But today I want to do a review of a new film opening this week in Los Angeles and in New York City and all over the country in certain markets. Brad's Status, written and directed by Mike White, the creator of Enlightened, a writer for Dawson's Creek and for Freaks and Geeks, and the writer of many other excellent films, including School of Rock, Year of the Dog, and Chuck and Buck, one of my very favorite Sundance films from the early 2000s. Mike White's always been a very interesting writer-director, but his most accomplished film by far is Brad's Status, starring Ben Stiller as Brad, a man who is taking his son on a cross-country tour from Sacramento to Boston, where he is visiting colleges that he wants to attend. The son is played by Austin Abrams in an absolutely amazing performance. He's a quiet, muted, but hyper-intelligent musician, a composer on the keyboards, synthesizers, and piano, who decides that he wants to visit Harvard because he believes that he can get in, and he believes that there's a professor there who he has yet to be disillusioned about regarding his talent. So Stiller, who is a sort of middle-class, NGO-owning, resentful, white privileged guy from Sacramento, leaves his wife, played by Jenna Fischer, in Sacramento and decides to take his son to Boston. While he's there, he experiences, as one of the characters says, a sort of middle-aged nervous breakdown, the beginnings of a midlife crisis that actually seem to have extended into Brad's life for many years, mostly related to his jealousies and his ennui that spur from his supposed friendships with people that he met in college at Tufts. The fact that he went to Tufts and not Harvard, or Tufts and not Yale, has given him resentments against the success that these masculine archetypes, his friends, have achieved. You have, for example, Craig Fischer, played by the inimitable Michael Sheen, who I just recently saw in Home Again in a completely transformed role. Sheen is fantastic as a man who is a successful political speaker and pundit on the punditry circuit, who has made a career of sort of being a sexual harasser, a serial sexual harasser, and a power-hungry sort of blowhard, who now treats his friend Brad as if he doesn't really exist. Then you have Nick, a wealthy Madoff-style millionaire, multi-millionaire, played in a very interestingly dramatic role by Luke Wilson, looking never better and more dramatic than he has been in many years, really since the Royal Tenenbaums. But, you know, it's not exactly that it's been that long. He was excellent in The Skeleton Twins, and Wilson was in Roadies, of course, where he got to show off his acting chops. That show on Showtime has been canceled, but here, as Nick, he only has a couple minutes to shine as Stiller's sort of long-lost friend and most significant abandonment. But Wilson is really fantastic in the role. And then the other two main friends of Stiller's character are played by Jemaine, Clement, who I interviewed on cmfilmcommentary.com. I hope you enjoyed that interview. And Mike White, the writer-director of the film, who plays the sort of flamboyantly gay, queenie, orgy-having, multi-millionaire, a sort of a RuPaul character who has bombastic lifestyles and in his success shames Brad. This film is oriented around Brad's shame and his concept of his own status, which is a fictionalization. But it's not a film about Brad. It's really about Brad's son's perception of him having this sort of ennui-filled, dreadful breakdown in the middle of his life. He mentions at one point that he's 47 years old, but he seems even older. Maybe that's because we've known Stiller for so long on the screen. We've seen him in so many films that to see him gray and wizened and kind of cracked, it's a very shocking sight. And Mike White leans into that, using very little makeup on him. His hairstyling is very kind of ratty and messy and secondary. And the guy wears plaids and he wears loose cold weather gear. This is not a person who's living in high style like the Luke Wilson character or the Jemaine Clement character, who we learn later is a lush, an alcoholic who snorts cocaine, takes heroin, and has sex with his two girlfriends in his beach compound in Maui. It's interesting about Brad's character, or Stiller's character, Brad. This is one of his most soulful performances, but it is also a sort of related character to the Greenberg character he played in Noah Baumbach's film in 2010. In many ways, this is an extension of that crabby man, as if he had gone on to have children, get married, and was still filled with the sort of same anxious, dreadful sadness. I'm describing these words, and I have yet to tell you that Brad's Status is not a comedy. It has some funny moments, but if anything, it's a cringe comedy at most, and at least it's a drama filled with the dread of Austin Abrams' character watching his older father sort of descend into the madness of his own socially oriented, Facebook-focused misery, ennui, jealousy, call it what you will. In any case, Brad's Status is a sort of tragic film. Mike White, what an amazing writer and director he is. There are few American auteurs with as much talent as he has. First of all, this is one of the writers of his own screenplays who has for years produced his films, and this film is also produced by Plan B, the Academy Award-winning company run by Brad Pitt and Dee Dee Gardner. Those filmmakers who made 12 Years a Slave, The Big Short, and last year's Moonlight have here kind of turned a new genre in on itself, which is that old Sundance comedy filled with the archetypes and made it into a sad, mumblecore-esque sort of exploration of middle age. We've never seen Stiller in a role like this, even though it resembles Greenberg as a character. Brad is a very miserable, millennial-influenced person. Not only is he an NGO person, but he's focused on social media. He works in social media. It's how he makes his money to support his son. But at one point, he does something that my own father did to me. I recall it so vividly. He says, "Oh, we're not going to be able to afford to send you to Harvard. We're going to freak out." And the son says, "What are you talking about? I didn't know that." And he says, "No, you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about it." So many people, especially white, privileged, middle-class males all over this country, not only from California, have to deal with this exact circumstance, this exact kind of treatment. And the same dreads fill their parents, the post-baby boomers, Generation X. They're passing it on to their children. And Mike White seems to have observed this in the culture. It's amazing listening. That is what makes his script so significant and what makes Brad's Status one of his most accomplished films. The performances by Stiller and Abrams are particularly sensational. I don't know where they found Austin Abrams. I hear that he was in The Walking Dead and has had minor roles in teen comedies over the last couple of years and teen romances. But his performance as Brad's son, Troy, is an absolutely amazing performance. He's subtle and quiet and slack-eyed, but he has this gorgeous smile, and he has a great singing voice too. When we see him at one time perform against Stiller's kind of sad, whispery narration, we realize, oh my God, like not only is Troy, the character, successfully talented, but Austin Abrams is a talent, not just as a singer or as a screen performer, but as somebody who just holds his own against Ben Stiller, this amazing actor. Jenna Fischer, too, offers very significant support as Brad's wife. Unfortunately, hers is a more traditional role, and Mike White, for all of his success, unfortunately leans on some stereotypical masculine archetypes to create his roles. Jemaine Clement, for example, is revealed to be this alcoholic, and Nick, the character played by Luke Wilson, is revealed to be a sort of Madoff-y thief. When these character tropes come out, we realize that White has always sort of skewed towards a mainstream screenplay cookbook. You know, in School of Rock, he exhibited his most commercial talents, and in Enlightened, he had a show on HBO. Now, as we know, that show was canceled, and Mike White has not had, the world's most successful screenplay writing career. This is not a guy who's writing the Star Wars movies. This isn't Michael Arendt, He hasn't gone the John Sayles route either, though, in that he's not just, this fierce independent. He wants to be successful. He has appearances in School of Rock. He made appearances in Stepford Wives. This is a guy who acts in his films, The D Train, which I reviewed out of Sundance on CM Film Commentary, and he wants to be well. He wants to be successful. Mike White, that is. I think Brad's Status could possibly be his most successful film. Certainly creatively it is. And with the shepherding of Plan B and Amazon Studios, who is releasing it in LA and New York this week and expanding this next week, beginning the first weekend of October, I think White has a real opportunity here. And I hope that you, as the viewer, take it to see this amazing American auteur kind of at his peak, really, in screenwriting. This is bound to be a successful and possibly awards-worthy film for Stiller and for Austin Abrams. What an amazing early role. See Mike White's Brad's Status, and let me know what you think of it. Thanks again for visiting, and visit cmfilmcommentary.com. Thank you. Talk to you soon.